Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Mercy, watching the stars move past the viewing screen. His ship carried medical supplies and food to colonies that needed help across 3 star systems. The year was 2387, and humanity had become known throughout the galaxy as the species that always helped others. People called them the Peaceful Shepherds because they took care of everyone who asked for help. Dr. Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge carrying her medical reports. She was the ship's chief medical officer and had saved more alien lives than she could count. Her hands were always busy healing others, and her heart was always ready to help. She looked tired but happy as she handed Jake the daily report about their patients. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks sat at his station, planning their next relief mission. He used to be in the military, but now he helped coordinate aid efforts. Ryan was good at finding places that needed help and making sure supplies got there safely. He never talked much about his old job, but everyone knew he was tough when he needed to be. The Galactic Council had learned to depend on human help. Every time a species had trouble, they called for humans. The reptilian Vorthik, with their green scales and sharp teeth, always needed food for their growing population. The insectoid Zilani, with their black shells and compound eyes, regularly asked for medicine when their hives got sick. Even the tall crystalline Etherians, with their glowing bodies, asked humans to fix their technology problems. Jake received a message from the council that made him frown. The Etherians were dying from a terrible plague that spread through their crystal cities like fire. Millions of them were getting sick every day, and their own doctors could not stop it. The council was asking humanity to drop everything and help save an entire civilization from dying out. Dr. Carter heard the message and immediately started packing her equipment. She did not hesitate, even though this would be the hardest job she had ever tried. The Etherian plague was unlike anything she had seen before. It attacked their crystal bodies in ways that made no sense to human medicine. But Lisa was determined to find a cure, because that was what humans did. The USS Mercy changed course toward Etherian space. Jake ordered his crew to prepare for a long mission. They loaded every medical supply they had and called for more ships to bring additional help. Ryan coordinated with other human vessels to create a supply line that would keep medicine and equipment flowing to the Etherian worlds. When they arrived, Jake saw something that broke his heart. Beautiful crystal cities that once glowed with rainbow light were now dark and cracked. Etherian bodies lay in the streets, their light fading as the plague consumed them. Children who should have been playing were lying still while their parents wept tears that looked like liquid diamonds. Lisa worked 18 hours every day in her laboratory aboard the ship. She studied Etherian biology, tested hundreds of treatments, and watched many of her patients die despite her best efforts. Jake brought her food and made sure she slept when she collapsed from exhaustion. Ryan organized volunteer teams from other human ships to help care for the sick Etherians. The breakthrough came after 3 months of constant work. Lisa discovered that the plague was actually a virus that attacked the quantum bonds in Etherian crystal bodies. She developed a treatment that strengthened these bonds and helped their bodies fight off the infection. The first Etherian patient who recovered glowed brighter than before, his crystal body singing with renewed health. Word spread quickly through the crystal cities. Human medicine had done what Etherian science could not. Lisa and her team worked day and night to produce enough cure for millions of sick Etherians. Human ships brought in more supplies and volunteers. Jake coordinated the largest medical mission in galactic history. The grateful Etherians called humans their saviors. They promised eternal friendship and said they would never forget what humanity had done for them. The Galactic Council praised human compassion and dedication. Other species sent messages of thanks and admiration for human kindness, but Jake did not know what was happening behind closed doors. In the private chambers of the Galactic Council, alien leaders spoke very differently about humans. Ambassador Kefvar of the Vorthik laughed as he called humans useful fools who could be manipulated into doing anything. High Magistrate Zixnel the Zilani referred to humans as soft-hearted servants who were too stupid to see they were. Being used, the aliens had learned that humans would help anyone who asked, no matter how much it cost them. They saw human kindness not as strength, but as weakness that could be exploited. Every time humans helped, the aliens studied their methods, their technology, and their psychology. They were preparing for something that would shock humanity to its core. Jake looked out at the recovering Etherean cities and felt proud of what his people had accomplished. He believed they were building a better galaxy where all species helped each other. He had no idea that their generosity was being seen as the greatest weakness in galactic history, and that this weakness would soon be tested in ways that would change everything forever. 2 years had passed since the Etherean plague crisis, and humanity continued to be the galaxy's helping hand. Bobby Chun stood on a hill overlooking the New Dakota mining colony, watching massive machines dig deep into the planet's surface. The engineer had come here 6 months ago to oversee what started as a simple mineral extraction operation. But what they found changed everything. The discovery happened by accident when Bobby's drilling team hit a pocket of strange crystals that glow with inner light. These were not ordinary minerals, but quantum crystals, the rarest substance in the known galaxy. These crystals could make faster-than-light travel 10 times more efficient and open up whole new regions of space for exploration. Megan Chun, Bobby's wife, managed the colonial administration from her office in New Dakota's main settlement. She had been busy organizing the influx of human settlers and scientists who came to study the crystals. The colony grew from a few hundred people to over 50,000 in just a few months. Everyone was excited about what this discovery could mean for humanity's future. The first sign of trouble came when alien ships started appearing at the edge of the system. Bobby noticed them on his morning reports, but assumed they were just curious about the mining operation. The Vorthik had always been interested in human activities, and the Zilani often sent scout ships to monitor new developments, but these were not ordinary visits. War Commander Thaxmore of the Vorthik fleet brought 60 warships to the system and positioned them around New Dakota. His ships blocked all the jump points, making it impossible for human vessels to enter or leave. When Bobby tried to call for help, he found that all communications were being jammed. Admiral Karen Stevens at Human Defense Command received reports that made her stomach turn cold. The same pattern was happening across 40 human worlds. Alien fleets had appeared overnight at every colony that produced important resources or held strategic value. The Zilani had surrounded agricultural worlds with their swarm ships. Even the Ethereans, who owed their lives to human medicine, had joined the blockade with their crystal vessels. The aliens sent a message to Earth that was broadcast across all human worlds. Ambassador Kefar appeared on screens everywhere, his reptilian face showing no emotion as he spoke. He claimed that the quantum crystal territories belonged to the Vorthik under ancient treaty rights that predated human space travel. The Zilani High Magistrate Zixnel supported this claim, saying her swarms had historical breeding rights to the agricultural worlds. The ultimatum was simple, but devastating. Humanity had to surrender all rights to quantum crystals and accept permanent status as a protectorate species under alien oversight. They will be allowed to exist, but only as junior partners who provided services to their alien betters. If humans refuse, the blockaded worlds would be taken by force, and their populations would face the consequences. Megan Chun watched from her office window as Vorthik landing craft descended toward New Dakota. The alien soldiers that emerged were heavily armed and moved with military precision. They set up checkpoints throughout the colony and began registering every human resident. The message was clear: resistance would not be tolerated. On the agricultural world of Haven, Susan Walsh found herself facing Zilani warriors who had taken control of the planet's food production centers. The insectoid aliens forced human farmers to work longer hours under harsh conditions, claiming they need to increase output to feed the galactic community. Anyone who complained was taken away for attitude adjustment. Bobby tried to organize the colonists to resist, but the aliens had planned everything perfectly. They had studied human psychology during all those years of humanitarian missions. They knew humans valued civilian lives above everything else and would not fight if it meant putting innocent people at risk. The aliens used human compassion as a weapon against them. Admiral Stevens realized the scope of the disaster as reports came in from across human space. This was not a random attack, but a coordinated operation that had been planned for years. Every species that humanity had helped was now part of the coalition demanding human submission. The timing was perfect because human military forces were scattered across the galaxy on peacekeeping and humanitarian missions. The aliens had calculated everything carefully. They knew humans were peacekeepers who avoided violence whenever possible. They had watched human responses to conflicts and concluded that humanity would choose surrender over war if the alternative meant massive civilian casualties. The blockades were designed to make resistance impossible without sacrificing millions of innocent lives. President Nathan Cross faced the hardest decision in human history as he sat in his office on Earth. The alien demands were non-negotiable, and their military superiority seemed overwhelming. Human defense forces were designed for peacekeeping, not major warfare. Most human ships were converted freighters and medical vessels, not purpose-built warships like the alien fleets, but something bothered Admiral Stevens as she studied the intelligence reports. The aliens were too confident, too certain that humans would submit without a fight. They acted like they knew exactly how humanity would respond to every situation. This level of certainty suggested they had been studying human behavior for much longer than anyone realized. The truth was worse than Stevens imagined. Every humanitarian mission had been a reconnaissance operation in disguise. Every alien species that asked for help had been gathering intelligence about human technology, psychology, and military capabilities. They had used human kindness to learn everything they needed to know about their targets. The galaxy's most generous species had been betrayed by everyone they had tried to help. The Etherians who owed their existence to human medicine were now pointing weapons at human colonies. The Vorthic who had received food during famines were stealing human resources. The Zilani who had been cured of diseases were enslaving human farmers. As Bobby Cheen watched alien soldiers patrol his colony, he wondered how humanity had missed the signs. The answer was simple. They had been too busy helping others to notice. They were being studied like laboratory animals. Their greatest strength had become their greatest vulnerability, and now they faced the consequences of trusting those who saw kindness as weakness. The true face of the alien coalition revealed itself within days of the occupation. Colonel Derek Martinez had been visiting Haven to inspect agricultural facilities when the Zilani swarms arrived. He watched in horror as the insectoid aliens herded human farmers into work camps, surrounded by electric fences and guard towers. The Vorthic showed their cruelty even more openly. On New Dakota, Bobby Chin witnessed reptilian soldiers forcing human miners to work 20-hour shifts in dangerous conditions. When exhausted workers collapsed, they were dragged away and never seen again. The aliens claimed they were being taken to medical facilities, but everyone knew better. Dr. Lisa Carter found herself in the worst position of all. She had been captured while trying to evacuate patients from a human medical station. Now she was aboard a Zilani hive ship, held in a cell that reeked of decay and fear. The insectoid aliens kept her alive because they wanted to study human medical knowledge, but they made it clear that her life meant nothing to them. During her captivity, Lisa overheard conversations between Zilani commanders that made her blood run cold. They spoke openly about their long-term plans for humanity. The aliens had been coordinating this takeover for over 30 years, using every humanitarian mission as an opportunity to gather intelligence out human weaknesses. The Zilani High Magistrate Zixnell visited Lisa's cell personally, her compound eyes glittering with malice. She explained how they had studied human psychology and concluded that humans were perfect servants because they were too soft-hearted to resist effectively. The aliens had tested human responses during various crises and found that humans always chose to save lives rather than fight back. On Haven, Mayor Susan Walsh discovered the aliens had built re-education camps where humans were tortured until they accepted their new status as servants. The camps were hidden in remote areas, but screams could be heard for miles. Colonel Martinez tried to organize a rescue mission, but the Zilani had anticipated this and placed the camps in locations where any attack would kill the prisoners. The aliens had learned from studying human behavior that humans would sacrifice themselves to save others. They used this knowledge to create impossible situations where resistance meant watching innocent people die. Every human strength had been cataloged and turned into a weakness that could be exploited. But the worst revelation came when Dr. Carter accessed the Zilani communication terminal. She discovered messages between the alien species that revealed the true scope of their betrayal. Every species that humanity had helped was part of the conspiracy. The Etherians had provided quantum communication technology. The Vorthic had supplied military intelligence. The Zilani had offered their expertise in psychological manipulation. The breaking point came when the Etherians attacked a refuge transport carrying families evacuating from the outer colonies. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded the civilian vessel New Hope, which was packed with 3,000 refugees, including many children. She had been trying to reach safe space when Etherian crystal ships surrounded her vessel. Amy tried to negotiate, reminding the Etherians that human doctors had saved their entire species from extinction. The lead Etherian commander responded by saying that debt had been repaid with the intelligence they provided about human weaknesses. Then they opened fire with weapons powered by technology that human scientists had given them freely. The New Hope was not a warship, but a converted passenger liner with minimal defenses. Amy and her crew fought desperately to protect their passengers, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The ship's hull began to crack under the assault, and atmosphere started venting into space. Children were crying as their parents held them close. Knowing they were all going to die, Amy made a final transmission that was picked up by communication stations across human space. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her as she spoke directly to Earth. She described the attack, identified the Etherian ships by name, and made sure everyone knew that humanity's children were being murdered by the aliens they had saved. The transmission ended when the New Hope exploded, taking 3,000 innocent lives with it. The footage of the attack spread across human colonies within hours. People watched in shock as Etherian weapons tore apart a ship full of families. These were the same Etherians who had wept tears of liquid diamond when humans saved them from plague. President Nathan Cross received reports from across human space that painted a picture of systematic betrayal. The aliens were not just taking territory, but were actively enslaving human populations. They had built camps, torture facilities, and execution sites. This was not conquest, but attempted genocide disguised as political subjugation. Admiral Karen Stevens realized that the aliens had made a fundamental mistake in their calculations. They had studied human peacekeeping behavior and humanitarian responses, but they had never seen humans in a true war situation. All their intelligence was based on humans who were trying to help others, not humans who were fighting for their survival. The massacre of the New Hope became the symbol that unified human resistance. Bobby Chun organized sabotage operations at New Dakota mining facilities. Colonel Martinez began planning raids on the prison camps. Mayor Walsh started an underground network to smuggle information between occupied worlds. But most importantly, the attack triggered something the aliens had never anticipated. They had studied human compassion and kindness, but they had never encountered human rage. The species that had spent centuries helping others was learning to hate, and that hate was focused on the aliens who had betrayed their trust and murdered their children. Dr. Carter managed to escape from the Zilani ship during a prisoner transfer, taking with her detailed intelligence about alien military capabilities and plans. She transmitted everything she had learned to human resistance networks. giving them the information they needed to start fighting back effectively. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their kindness or their technology. It was their ability to choose when to stop being peaceful, and that choice had finally been made. The footage of the New Hope massacre reached Earth during President Nathan Cross's emergency session with the Global Defense Council. The room fell silent as they watched 3,000 innocent humans die at the hands of aliens they had saved from extinction. When the transmission ended, Nathan stood up and spoke words that would be remembered for centuries. "We offered our hand in friendship, and they bit it off," he said, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's collective anger. "Now they will learn why we kept our other hand behind our back." The alien coalition celebrated what they thought was their final victory over human resistance. They had broken the human spirit by showing that kindness meant nothing in a galaxy ruled by strength. But they had made a critical error in their analysis of human psychology. They had studied humans at peace, not humans at war. Admiral Karen Stevens received authorization to activate Protocol 7, a classified directive that had been established 3 centuries earlier when humans first ventured into space. The protocol was based on a simple principle: humanity would always try peace first, but they would be prepared for war if peace failed. The truth about human civilization began to emerge across the galaxy. Every humanitarian mission had been dual purpose, serving both to help others and to establish strategic positions. Every research station was also a military outpost. Every colony ship carried the equipment needed to become a fortress. Every medical facility could be converted to weapons production within hours. Dr. Lisa Carter, now safely back on Earth, revealed intelligence she had gathered during her captivity. The aliens had studied human peacekeeping forces and concluded that humanity had no real military capability. They had seen human ships designed for rescue and relief operations and assumed that was all humans could build. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks finally revealed his true background to his shocked colleagues aboard the USS Mercy. He was not just a former military officer, but a veteran of the Special Operations Command who had been placed on humanitarian missions to maintain his cover. His job had been to observe alien behaviors and capabilities. While appearing to be nothing more than a relief coordinator, the USS Mercy itself underwent a transformation that amazed its crew. Hidden panels opened to reveal weapon systems that had been disguised as medical equipment. The ship's scanning arrays were actually military sensors. The cargo bays converted to fighter launch platforms. Captain Jake Morrison watched in amazement. As his humanitarian vessel became a battleship, across human space, similar transformations were taking place. Engineer Bobby Chin discovered that his mining equipment on New Dakota could be reconfigured to manufacture weapons and military hardware. The same machines that had been extracting quantum crystals were now producing ammunition and armor. The colony's communication array reeled, itself to be a military command center. The aliens had studied every aspect of human civilization except the most important one: human history. They knew humans were peaceful in the present, but they had never investigated why humans had become peaceful. The answer was simple. Humans had been so good at war that they had chosen to stop fighting. President Cross addressed the human worlds with a speech that was broadcast even to occupied territories. He spoke about the choice humanity had made centuries ago to turn their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. But he also reminded everyone that a plowshare could be turned back into a sword when the harvest was threatened. The alien intelligence networks suddenly realized they had been watching the wrong things. While they focused on human hospitals and schools, they had missed the weapons factories hidden beneath research facilities. While they studied human psychology, they had ignored human history books filled with accounts of wars that had scarred entire continents. Admiral Stevens revealed that Human Defense Command had always maintained detailed profiles of every alien species in the galaxy. The same medical knowledge used to cure alien diseases could be turned into biological weapons targeting specific species. The cultural intelligence gathered during diplomatic missions provided perfect insight into alien military weaknesses. The Etherians were the first to understand their mistake when human scientists published research about quantum disruption fields that could shatter crystal-based life forms. The research was presented as a theoretical study, but every Etherian leader recognized it as a weapon specifically designed to kill their species. Colonel Derek Martinez led the first open resistance operation on Haven, and the aliens discovered that their intelligence about human military capabilities was completely wrong. Instead of the disorganized farmers they expected to face, they encountered professional soldiers who had been hiding among the civilian population for years. The attack on the prison camps was surgical and devastating. Martinez's team moved through Zelani positions like ghosts, eliminating guards without raising alarms. They freed thousands of human prisoners and evacuated them before the aliens realized what had happened. The operation was so smooth that it seemed impossible for peaceful humans to have planned it. Mayor Susan Walsh revealed that her underground resistance network was actually part of a galaxy-wide communication system that had been operating since the first human colonies were established. The aliens had cut official communication channels, but they had never detected the hidden networks that connected every human world. The most shocking revelation came when Bobby Chun's sabotage operations began targeting alien supply lines with precision that suggested detailed knowledge of their logistics. The aliens realized that humans had been mapping their military infrastructure for decades while pretending to deliver humanitarian aid. The Vorthek War Commander Faxmore demanded answers from his intelligence officers about how they had missed obvious signs of human military preparation. The answer was embarrassing. They had been so focused on human weaknesses that they had ignored human capabilities. They had seen what they wanted to see, instead of what was actually their president. Cross authorized the next phase of human response, and the galaxy began to see weapons and technologies that had been kept secret for centuries. Human ships that had appeared helpless suddenly revealed advanced defensive systems. Human colonies that seemed vulnerable activated planetary defense networks that had been hidden underground. The alien coalition faced a terrifying realization. They had attacked the most dangerous species in the galaxy while that species was pretending to be harmless. Humanity had not been weak, but had been choosing to appear weak while building the most sophisticated military infrastructure ever seen. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was angry. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of what had once been the humanitarian vessel USS Mercy, now revealed as the dreadnought USS Retribution. The ship's transformation was complete, its medical bays converted to tactical centers, and its cargo holds filled with weapons that could crack planets. Jake looked at the tactical display showing Vorthik positions around New Dakota and prepared to teach the galaxy a lesson about human warfare. The first strike came without warning. Human ships that had been scattered across the galaxy on peacekeeping missions suddenly converged on alien positions with coordination that seemed impossible. The aliens had been monitoring human communication channels, but they had missed the quantum networks that connected every human military unit across space. Dr. Lisa Carter worked from a mobile laboratory aboard the USS Retribution, using her detailed knowledge of alien biology to create weapons tailored to each species. The same medical expertise that had saved Etherian lives now produced a quantum virus that attacked their crystal matrices. The virus spread through their communication networks, turning their own technology against them. The Vorthik fleet around New Dakota faced their first taste of human military doctrine. Instead of attacking head-on like the honorable warriors they pretended to be, the humans struck from multiple directions simultaneously. Stealth ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels appeared behind Vorthik lines and began systematically destroying their command vessels. War Commander Thaxmore watched in horror as his tactical displays went dark one by one. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered before. They used deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare with a sophistication that suggested centuries of experience. His warriors, trained for direct confrontation, found themselves fighting shadows. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks led Special Forces teams that infiltrated Vorthic command structures using intelligence gathered during years of humanitarian missions. The aliens had shared their cultural secrets with humans they thought were harmless aid workers. Now those secrets became weapons that destroyed them from within. The Zilani discovered that their swarm intelligence was vulnerable to psychic interference. When human PSYOP specialists began broadcasting disruption signals, the same scientists who had studied Zilani hive behavior to help them overcome communication disorders now used that knowledge to fracture their collective consciousness. Magistrate Zixnell felt her connection to the swarm begin to break down as human interference patterns invaded Zilani communication networks. Individual Zilani warriors found themselves cut off from the hive mind, confused and unable to coordinate with their fellows. The species that had prided itself on perfect unity began to tear itself apart. On Haven, Colonel Derek Martinez led liberation forces that moved through Zilani positions with surgical precision. The alien warriors who had seemed invincible when facing peaceful farmers crumbled when confronted by professional soldiers who understood their every weakness. Martinez's troops freed human prisoners and captured alien facilities with minimal casualties. The prison camps that had tortured thousands of humans became processing centers for captured aliens. Mayor Susan Walsh, who had organized the resistance network, now coordinated the systematic dismantling of the occupation infrastructure. Every Zilani commander who had overseen human suffering found themselves in the same cells they had used to break human spirits. Bobby, Chun's sabotage operations. On New Dakota revealed the true scope of human preparation. The mining equipment that aliens thought was civilian machinery began producing military hardware at impossible rates. Underground factories that had been hidden for decades started manufacturing weapons and vehicles for the liberation forces. The Etherians faced the most terrifying fate of all. Their quantum-based biology made them vulnerable to frequency weapons that humans had developed from studying their own life-giving technologies. Etherian ships began experiencing cascade failures as their crystal hulls resonated themselves to pieces. Admiral Karen Stevens coordinated the largest military operation in galactic history from her command center on Earth. The same communication networks that had delivered humanitarian aid now carried orders for total war. Human forces that had been scattered across the galaxy as peacekeepers were formed into battle groups that struck alien positions with devastating effect. The aliens tried to use human civilians as shields, but they discovered that humans had prepared for this tactic as well. Rescue operations extracted human prisoners with efficiency that amazed even veteran soldiers. Every civilian evacuation was coordinated with military strikes that eliminated alien forces while protecting innocent lives. Vorthic Empire began to crumble as human forces captured their supply bases and command centers. Their military doctrine, based on intimidation and brute force, proved useless against opponents who had studied them for decades. Human tacticians knew every Vorthic strategy and had prepared counters for each one. The Zilani hives collapsed under the weight of their shattered collective consciousness. Without the ability to coordinate their actions, individual Zilani became easy targets for human forces who understood their psychology better than they understood themselves. Entire swarm fleets surrendered rather than face the terrifying isolation of broken mental connections. The Etherians discovered that their advanced quantum technology became a liability when humans began using it against them. The same crystal resonance patterns that powered their civilization now served as targeting frequencies for human weapons. Their beautiful cities sang themselves to death under the assault of weaponized harmony. President Nathan Cross watched reports from across the galaxy as human forces achieved victory after victory. The aliens who had seemed so confident when attacking peaceful humans were helpless when facing humanity's true military might. Every species that had betrayed human trust now faced the consequences of their miscalculation. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest deception had been pretending to be weak while building the most advanced war machine ever conceived. Every humanitarian mission had served dual purposes, gathering intelligence while positioning military assets. Every act of kindness had been genuine, but every act of kindness had also been preparation for the day when kindness would not be enough. The alien coalition that had seemed unstoppable just weeks earlier was now in full retreat across multiple star systems. They had awakened something they did not understand and could not control. Humanity had chosen peace for centuries, but when forced to choose war, they proved to be the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. The war ended not with a final battle, but with the complete collapse of alien resistance across the galaxy. Admiral Karen Stevens stood in the council chambers on Earth, reading surrender offers from species that had once demanded human submission. The Etherians begged for the same mercy they had received during their plague crisis. The Zilani offered to serve humanity in exchange for their lives. The Vorthic promised eternal loyalty if humans would spare their homeworld. President Nathan Cross listened to each plea with the same expression he had worn when watching footage of human children dying aboard the New Hope. When the last alien ambassador finished speaking, he delivered humanity's terms with calm precision. There will be no mercy, no negotiations, and no return to the old ways. The alien species that has sought to make humans their servants will become servants themselves. Every world they had occupied would become human territory. Every resource they had claimed would fuel human expansion. Every technology they possessed would serve human interests. The galaxy would have peace, but it would be peace enforced by human strength. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a fleet of captured alien vessels, established protection zones around former human colonies. The USS Retribution and her sister ships maintained orbital positions that made rebellion impossible. The aliens who had once blockaded human worlds now lived under constant human surveillance. Dr. Lisa Carter found herself in charge of a new medical program that ensured alien populations remained healthy and productive in their new roles. The treatment she developed created biological dependencies that made rebellion not just futile but impossible. Aliens who had once mocked human medicine now relied on it for their very survival. The Etherians discovered that their quantum-based biology made them perfect for certain types of work that humans found dangerous. Their crystal bodies could withstand radiation and energy fields that would kill other species. They spent their days maintaining human technology in conditions that would be lethal to their former masters. The Zilani hives were restructured to serve human agricultural needs. Their collective consciousness, once used to coordinate military operations, now focused entirely on food production and manufacturing. High Magistrate Zixnell, who had once called humans soft-hearted servants, now reported daily to human overseers about production quotas. The Vorthic military machine was dismantled and rebuilt to serve human expansion efforts. Their warriors became construction workers and miners, using their physical strength to build human cities on worlds they had once tried to conquer. War Commander Faxmore worked in the same quantum crystal mines he had tried to steal from humanity. Bobby Chun returned to New Dakota as the planetary administrator, overseeing alien labor forces that extracted resources for human use. The mining operation that had started the war now produced materials for human ships that patrolled the galaxy. The aliens who had tried to steal human discoveries now spent their lives making those discoveries profitable. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks established training programs that taught humans how to manage their new alien workforce effectively. The same psychological insights that had helped humans provide humanitarian aid now ensured that aliens remained compliant and productive. Every weakness the aliens had revealed was used to control them. Colonel Derek Martinez became the military governor of Haven, where former Zilani commanders worked in the same agricultural fields they had once forced humans to tend. The prison camps were converted to housing for alien workers, who were treated better than they had treated their human prisoners, but who understood that their lives depended on human mercy. Mayor Susan Walsh coordinated the integration of alien populations into human society, ensuring that useful skills were preserved while dangerous capabilities were eliminated. The resistance networks that had once fought alien occupation now managed alien labor assignments and monitored alien activities. But President Cross understood that ruling through fear alone would eventually lead to rebellion. He established a crucial policy that separated those who had betrayed humanity from those who had remained neutral or helped during the war. Minor species that had refused to join the alien coalition were granted full citizenship and equality in the new human-dominated galaxy. These neutral species became examples of what cooperation with humanity could achieve. They enjoyed prosperity and freedom while the former enemies lived as servants. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Loyalty to humanity brought rewards, while betrayal brought subjugation. Dr. Carter oversaw medical programs that treated all species equally, but the treatments for former enemies included safeguards that prevented rebellion. The same compassion that had once saved alien lives now ensured that those lives served human purposes. Aliens who had been cured by human medicine found that their health depended on continued cooperation. The galaxy learned to function under what historians would call the Terran hegemony. Trade flowed smoothly because human protection guaranteed safe passage. Conflicts between species were resolved quickly because human arbitration was final and absolute. Pirates and raiders disappeared because human patrol fleets eliminated them. Without mercy. Young humans growing up in this new galaxy asked their elders why they still provided medical care and education to alien populations. The answer was always the same, because the day humans stopped choosing to be kind would be the day they became what their enemies had thought they were. The kindness was real, but it was kindness backed by overwhelming strength. Aliens received excellent health care, education for their children, and opportunities for advancement, but they received these things as privileges granted by human mercy, not as rights they could demand. Captain Morrison often visited the memorial, a new decoder dedicated to the victims of the New Hope massacre. The names of 3,000 humans were carved in quantum crystal that glowed with eternal light. Next to the memorial stood a statue of Captain Amy Rodriguez, whose final transmission had awakened humanity to the true nature of their enemies. The galaxy remained peaceful under human rule, but it was a peace built on the understanding that humanity's mercy was a choice, not a weakness. The species that had mistaken kindness for vulnerability now served as permanent reminders that some mistakes carry prices too high to ever fully pay. The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked for, a galaxy where strength determined status and the weak served the strong. They had simply been wrong about which species was actually strongest. Humanity had tried to build a galaxy based on cooperation and mutual aid, but when that dream was shattered, they built something else entirely, a galaxy where human children would never again die because their parents had been too trusting of those who saw kindness as weakness.